Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you are joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it very, very much. You know, we've been talking about festivals. We've been talking about good things happening in our community. We're going to keep talking about that. Really excited about some of the things coming up that you can attend that I promise that you will be entertained by. I want to welcome in our guest. First, we have Stan Gravois, Director of the Healthy Lifestyle Center at Terrebonne General Health System. Stan, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Keith, good to be here.
Is it weird still not being on this side?
It's not, but you mentioned you were a clinical social worker, and
Right.
sometimes I can use that a little bit. So
Right.
perfect
Right.
timing.
I called you Saturday about that. You didn't answer, but we'll talk about that. Chris Pulaski joining us, and Chris is not only in his role with the parish, but he's also the Terrebonne Parish and Planning and Zoning Director, but also with 200, the chairperson for our 200 Centennial celebration. So, Chris, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
I appreciate it. Chris, let's talk a little bit about the formation of all these monthly celebrations that we've had and how it kind of culminated with the festival.
Sure. So when we first sat down to think about 200 years of life in Terrebonne Parish, it seemed the easiest way to celebrate was throughout the entire year. We picked 12 topics that sort of generalize life in Terrebonne, and they range from things like entertainment, military, commerce, transportation, education, agriculture, and of course we have sports coming up next. So while we had each group give a presentation, and originally, of course, the idea was 1 month for each topic, but because of the storm, we had to kind of condense everything down.
Right.
But it still worked out wonderfully. We've had presentations, they're either at the library or at the Civic Center, just depending upon which one's available on that given night.
Right.
And they've been very well attended. I mean, I've learned so much by going to those presentations, and I'm chairman of the committee, right? But when we sat down with all the committee, subcommittee chairpersons, we said, okay, this is your baby. You know, we would like for you to run with it, and they would come in and check in with us every so often just to make sure that things are on task and if they needed any assistance with anything. And, you know, we've had great groups and been real fortunate with all that. So,
And the experts and some of the knowledge base that
Oh,
they've
yeah.
had, Chris, like I was blown away by, like you, figuring out some of this stuff, but the number of people who had such vast knowledge of those things and relatives
Yeah.
who had vast knowledge for 200 years.
right. Well, and it was real easy to pinpoint the folks to lead each subcommittee. I mean, someone like Stan right here. I mean, you know, sports. Okay, we're going to Stan first. You know, there's just those names that come up. You just know that they're going to be the experts, and then they can bring in, you know, whoever they need to. And we've been real fortunate with how it's all worked out.
Yeah, from an environmental standpoint, Earl Hughes was telling me there was a gentleman who is a PhD who's taught environmental services, but he was one of those people that helped Earl. He's like, yeah, I'm calling this guy, you know. And then with agriculture, O'Neill was telling me about another gentleman. Well, I know this guy. It was just really interesting to see how well connected everybody is to get those things going. And like you said, when it comes to sports, we turn to Stan because some of us learned how to do sports and learned about sports through and with Stan. So that had to be really interesting for you as well.
It was, and I learned a lot. You know, Chris and I were speaking before we came on air. The hardest part of all of this is the presentation's about 90 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. How do you fit all of this in 90 minutes? I mean, I could take the sport of bowling and make a 90-minute presentation that would fascinate people, truly, in our area. And that's kind of like where you have to find that medium of giving the information, giving it on everything, and not leaving anything out. So we hope we have done that with sports. And I think there's a lot of things, and he mentioned how he learned a lot of things. I thought I knew sports in our area. I didn't know sports in our area. There's some things that just blew my mind along the way.
Tell us about how that went for you in the gathering of that data and how it was just as a process. For example, thinking we know what we know, and then all of a sudden you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it.
Well, the first thing is the powers that be from government came and said, hey, Stan, can you kind of head this up? And I'm thinking, how do I make a presentation? Because everybody else is going to call presenters up there, right? Okay. Well, some of the presenters that we have passed on, right? That we would love to have. Then I thought, I can't get everybody in our area up. I am fortunate that I do know how to edit and do things like that. So we basically made a documentary. That's our centerpiece, right? A 70-minute documentary that not only could be used for this, but Brian Rodrigue, who does such a great job with the consolidated government, is being that person who can get this out there, right? And then even me bringing it to the libraries. After this is said and done, we want this to be a history lesson going forward, not
wow.
just right now, right? So it's a 70-minute documentary, our centerpiece. And when you learn, it kind of goes chronologically. It talks about every high school. And when I say every high school, Keith, I'm talking about St. Lucie Catholic, and I'm talking about St. Joseph Benedictine, and I'm talking about South Down, High School, schools we've forgotten.
Right.
And some of the stars that have come out of our area that have gone on to play professional ball, it really, we're proud of it when it's all said and done. And then I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but there's going to be memorabilia there that when you walk in to watch this movie, that might take second seat to all of the memorabilia that you're going to see,
Right.
So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
And so I know what our offices are supposed to look like, but we know what your office looks like right now, and we'll talk about those things in just a little bit. But I appreciate the fact that we've had so much time and energy spent figuring out what we want to do, breaking down those different areas, and going to the experts to figure out who knows that information. The other thing that's different about this one, as we've had other people get up and speak at most of these presentations that have been done over the month, this one is different. Stan, we were talking about one of those things, and one of the things that you're really, really good at is being able to take information and gather it and be able to show it in a way that it kind of walks people through chronologically some of the exciting things.
Yes. Again, I go back to what Chris and I were talking about. It's hard to put this in a 70-minute time capsule. But that being said, it was a lot of fun. We tried to pick out those things that were extremely important. I don't want to get into the debate of what's fake news, what's not fake news, as you see. By the way, 70 minutes of this thing, I tried to condense right here in about a minute for a little trailer.
Right.
So it looks like our video on crack, so to speak. It's going really quick. But it gives you an idea of all of the things and all of the names that are, that are in our area. Those people, those teams that succeeded, that did so well from the Terrebonne Parish area. Not only in the last 25 years, I mean back 200 years along the way. So again, it was a lot of fun. We just thought this was the best way to get the information out.
Right.
We have speakers on our documentary. We have Buddy Marcella posthumously. We have Frank Lewis on there. We have your dad who comes in and talks about tennis. We have Leonard Hughes, part of Candies and Hughes drag racing team.
Right.
There you go.
Speaking
Leonard
of,
Hughes.
good timing.
See him there. Very good timing. We have, Clarence Verdun, Troy Johnson, who played NFL football. Guys who, you just didn't know were from our area. And we think that it is entertaining. It's something that's going to be, I think, used in the high schools in a way that those kids are going to understand. I could kind of stand on their shoulders. They did this. I didn't realize that. So one thing we sort of missed in Terrebonne Parish is the history of sports related to some of the stars we've had.
Okay.
Earl Groh. I mean, the guy's drafted 15th in the NFL draft by the Green Bay Packers and Vince Lombardi, right? And a lot of people just didn't realize.
No, I mean, in the heyday of the Packers.
Sure. Sure, guys who went on to LSU and had terrific careers at LSU. That's minimal when you consider what we've had guys do on the professional level. You have Justin Williams, who's still playing right now for the Phillies organization, who are in the World
by the
Series.
way, right?
It's pretty amazing what we've had in our area and how lucky we've been.
Well, and just being able to see some of those amazing individuals that a lot of us are never going to know all of them unless you come out on Thursday night and be able to see. And again, it's 70 minutes, but that 70 minutes, like you said, may pale in comparison to some of the volume of tremendous memorabilia that's in your office.
Yes. So we've been collecting memorabilia for about the last 6 months, and it happens to be all in my office, packed up to the ceilings right now. We're going to bring it over to the main library on Thursday morning. That being said, one of the guys who has had a lot of success in our area was Harold Haydell, who went on to play for the Minnesota Twins. We have Harold Haydell's Letterman jacket from St. Francis. That's going to be on display that night. basketball. We have the 1959 game ball. I mentioned that from St. Francis that's going to be on display that night. We have an original stock certificate from the Houma Indians when they were formed in 1946 in the Evangeline League. The only way you could get them in Houma was for people to chip up money, right? You take out stock. And we have a stock certificate, a $50 stock certificate in the Houma Indians from 1946. So it's just kind of intriguing, all of these things. We have, a speaker in our video, Jeff W., who a lot of people know in the area as being the outdoorsman, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think people realize this. The largest tarpon caught in the United States of America was caught right here by a Terrebonne Parish resident. Just things like that people don't know. I guess our ultimate goal would be when you finish with our presentation, you walk out going, I didn't know that. That's it. I didn't realize that came from our area.
Listen, what things you don't know as a child versus things you don't know. I knew my dad played tennis. I knew the first time I walked out on the tennis court with my dad, and I was in high school, and I just knew that he played. I was a little arrogant. I know that's hard to believe. And so I hit a ball up, and I just kind of stroll up to the net. And my father hits a forehand up the line as hard as I've ever seen a forehand hit. And I just stood there going, oh, my God. And my dad just went, uh-huh. Then I find out with him talking to Stan, my dad was one of the best tennis players when he was 16 in the area.
Yes.
And I pale in comparison the entire timeline of my life. And people associate me with tennis. Stan called me, and I'm like, I got somebody who's even better than that. So my dad kind of made the video because we find out that we've got a lot of people, maybe even relatives of yours that you find out that were incredible athletes that did some amazing things.
Oh, drag racing in Houma.
Mr. Jeff and Mr. Joe.
It's not a local thing. We're the national guys, man. Mr. Jeff Two-Tone, Mr.
Joe
Leonard
Two-Tone.
Hughes, Sammy Pizzolata back in the day, Bobo guys. I could go down the line, Mr. Dover. You could go straight down the line. We're one of the innovators in drag racing in all of America. And people don't realize that. We have clips from Southland Drags, which are phenomenal in our documentary. Got to come watch the documentary. But
Again, nice plug.
Yeah. This footage is not just like a pictures that come up. It's actual video footage.
And tells the story. Jen, put that graphic up one more time, please. I want people to know that on Thursday, October 27th, 6 p.m., make sure you come at 6. You'll be able to see all of that memorabilia that Stan has been talking about. It's 200 years of authentic sports memorabilia on display, separate presentation, 70 minutes on the history of the parish. We have recreation separation.
Yeah, we'll talk
recreation
about that.
department. We'll talk about that and what they've done. But it's a 70-minute full-length feature film highlighting 200 years of sports on the Bayou. We've got a whole special thing that's being done, Bobby Arsenault, on recreation.
Yeah, Bobby's sort of been my partner in crime with all of this. And Bobby, who, when you think about it, I don't want to give Bobby's age away, but Bobby played recreation ball when he was a young kid. That's when, recreation was not sanctioned. It wasn't Babe Ruth or it wasn't Dixie or anything like that. Then he went on to coach TPR teams right out of high school.
Early on, that's right.
Out of high school. It's been a passion. It's been something he's always done. And now he works with the recreation department. Bobby, immediately after the 70-minute documentary, is going to do a little presentation on recreation, not only TPR, but on HARC. And I just made a lot of people out there smile who are a little bit older from Houma going, HARC, man, I remember
Houma
HARC.
Area Recreation?
Yeah, so you have the Houma Athletic Recreation Council, which kind of catered to the kids who lived in Houma. And of course, you had TPR. It was at one time Terrebonne Parish Parks and Recreation.
Right.
And so he is going to do a little spill, and I look forward to that, actually. I think I'm going to learn some things there. We did put some pictures together for that, so he'll talk a little bit about that. Okay. From the days when you used to take a marker and make your own jerseys, yep. Because you were not given jerseys.
It was I played HARC with the Wolves, and we had green jerseys. We would write our number on it.
Yep. So he's going to.
I don't want to give my age, but I'm only about 16 years younger than Bobby is, and I'm 54. But I don't want to give his age away.
Okay. There you go. You got it. Right. Happy birthday, Bobby.
That's exactly right. Happy birthday.
So from a standpoint of getting some education in there with that I think that's going to be fun. So basically, the agenda is come out there, see some memorabilia, watch the 70-minute documentary, and then listen to Bobby with recreation. And when you walk out, hopefully, again, you walk out going, Didn't know that. And then second, maybe something you could carry forward to the younger generation.
Well, I'm bringing pen and pad because I can guarantee you there are lots and lots of things that I don't know. One of the things my dad's most excited about, who's coming, by the way, is really looking forward to. My dad was on the Parks and Recreation Committee for
Way back
years, way back early on for the parish, when their job was to make sure that our recreation departments actually had places to go and be.
One of the guys who is coming to this is Boo Shakesnyder. For a lot of people don't know Boo Shakesnyder, he's assistant track coach at LSU.
Right.
He's from St. James Parish, and that's where I'm originally from the Bashry area. And Boo is just a historical nut for sports, and he loves the Bayou region. And he called yesterday and said, "When is this? I want to come." And I don't even know how he found out. So that's a good thing.
I'm
Chris.
glad he found
That's
out.
good, huh? We're reaching St. James Parish.
So,
you know?
so he's coming in
And
from
LSU.
Baton Rouge. This is a guy who has worked with athletes who have won gold medals from all countries. All countries.
Oh, that's right.
This guy, and he's coming in tomorrow because he loves the history of sports and he loves our Bayou region. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It makes me a little nervous. But
Well,
I'm
you ought to
looking
be
forward to
excited.
that.
He heard Stan Gravois from the Vashry area
No,
was
I've been
doing this
knowing Boo
documentary.
a long time.
But he's worked with some incredible athletes.
Oh, we have some people coming in tomorrow. You know, Richard Curlin won a 91 state championship. You know, we have Clyde Duplantis, a 1951 graduate of Terrebonne. We have the quarterback of the 1948 Terrebonne team, Mr. Will Cipico, who's
right.
coming in for that tomorrow. It's just a lot of fun to have guys coming in. You know, my guys I used to coach, David Butler and Ivan Williams and all of these guys. It's just going to be so fun to have everybody together. And it's free.
That's
We
right.
wanna make
Free to
sure
the public.
It's free to the public. Everybody's going, oh, how much does that cost? Free.
It's
$3.99.
absolutely free
Yeah.
99.
I
Jim,
love
put
it.
the, put the
$3.99.
flyer up one more time as we go back to Chris. And, you know, it's one of the things that's been so exciting about what we've been able to do and accomplish. And again, the documentary of sports in Terrebonne Parish, October 27th. This one is at the library, main library, conference room, 6 p.m. Walk in and Stan, like Stan said, they're going to have a beautiful setup.
And
Go
this
ahead.
is my last thing. I know I've been talking a lot. I have to thank Terrebonne General for what they've done. I work there. I get it. But man, Phyllis Peoples and Diane Yates, my bosses, said, let's get this. Let's support the community. If you can help in any way, you help. I worked on that video for at least 200 hours. And between them and my wife, who at 3 a.m. was going, what are you doing? What are you? And I'm looking up stuff because I just thought of something, you know.
Right.
It's been a labor of love, a lot of labor sometimes, but it's been people who have offered the help to get it done.
How apropos that you spent about 200 hours celebrating our 200th celebration.
I didn't
of
even know I
sports.
said that.
You did. So Chris, some exciting things as we lead into sports. And again, I hate to keep talking about this festival, but just the memorabilia that was out at the festival celebrating our culture. This entire celebration of our bicentennial has just been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, whether you're talking about, you know, the activities or demonstrations that were going on during the festival, the time capsule, of course, had a lot of information, a lot of memorabilia, and that having to deal with all aspects of life. But what I was struck by, and looking at the trailer too, just in that brief little segment, you see the diversity of sports in Terrebonne Parish, and that's probably just a little taste of it, right? And so the same thing with the festival. I mean, we had a lot going on. We try to make it as diverse as possible, and I think we did a pretty good job. But, you know, building up, once we get done, we've got 2 more presentations after sports. We have seafood and entertainment. But
right.
once that's all done, we're going to be putting all of this information together in, like, I say a report, but that sounds boring, right?
Right. It's going to be a culmination of everything.
Exactly, like the little red
culmination of
book
the
that people
celebration.
talk about that was published after the Homa Sesquicentennial.
Right.
We're going to do something along those lines that we can publish and sort of encapsulates everything that's been going on all year long.
Fantastic. Chris, Stan, I cannot thank you enough. Really looking forward. Thursday night's going to be awfully special. Thursday, 6 p.m. at the main library. You don't want to miss it. It's 200 years of sports. I promise you'll enjoy it. 6 o'clock, meet us out there. And that will do it for this particular edition of Bayou Time. Don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming here on HTV.